Hello all and welcome to the channel all about economic board games. Today I am bringing you a very special video, top 10 business games. I'll be bringing you a little bit of an overview on them and why they sit in my top 10 and a little bit of sort of outline on these. They are games that give you a good feeling of owning or running a business. You're managing it, you've got your hands in the intricacies of maybe hiring workers or firing them or making business decisions affecting the price or anything to do with really the land or the infrastructure, the labour, the capital, that side of things. Not necessarily running government, so I'm kind of outlining the games that maybe something like Imperial, something like that, where it's running an actual government, or things like Prosperity. So more focused on businesses. And at the very end of the video, I'll sort of run a few more games past you that didn't quite make the list or games I've not yet played. So kicking off then at number 10. Oh, we start with a bang. Panamax. I love this game and it's squeaked into the top 10 here. This is a heavier game. It plays 2 hours plus usually, and it's got a 2 to 4 player count. Now, you are running shipping companies and you are trying to meet contracts. You can see the board here as you work your way from one of the sides to the other side, and these contracts will be from different nations. You got Europe, China, USA, and as you meet these, you get paid money. You've kind of got your own investment as well, and you're running this company, you're investing in shares in other people's companies, trying to make the most money, and you have to be really uber efficient over how you use your actions. And if I sort of zoom in the middle of the board here, you've got these dice and you're going to go to the left to do either the waterways, and you basically move in these ships with these actions here and how much you can move through those various ports and sections. And on the right you could choose to load up cargo and give yourself sort of the ability to do actions there. Now, when you complete these, that's the crux really, is getting more money in your business and investing that and giving you yourself personal funds. Now, as you sort of deliver and react to this movement system, which is very clever, folks, you could push other ships without them having to do a lot. So putting yourself in the right location is critical. And on your turn, you'll be removing one of these die from the action table, selecting contract, loading cargo, moving these ships, and you'll be trying to get those pool of dice onto the right matching ships, because there's an interesting power play as to what ships will accept your cargo. And over the course of 3 rounds, these actions are blended during the turn to create kind of a logistics network. So it really gives you a good feeling of you're managing this shipping company and trying to make the executive decisions of which ship will go where, what cargo you're going to take, how you're going to get these various bonuses, because you can see this is your company here, and the more types of contracts you fulfilled, you get these extra little perks, and you know where you're going to invest that money. So really gives you a good feeling of managing a shipping company. This one bit heavier, one of those games I always have to reference the rules in detail every time I play, because there's a lot of intricacies in this one, but definitely worth a look at. Panamax. And then it's going to go to number 9 then, but we've got another image here, and this is kind of a close-up of those ships, and as I was saying, you're pushing them through the waterways and the docks there, and you can see they're loaded up with cargo. You've got military ones with the X's on there, so a host of goodness in this game. Number 9, so stepping it down a notch in terms of complexity, we are going to Viticulture, the Essential Edition. What a fabulous game this one is, and it's that medium complexity, takes anywhere in the region 1-2 hours, sometimes 2.5 maybe, a max with sort of higher player range, and it does have a big player range of 1 to 6 players. Now in this game, you can see here you're running a winery and you're trying to get the right crops in your fields at the top. Sometimes you can sell these fields. You're trying to get a mixture of white and red wine, so you can then turn them into grapes in your crush pads at the bottom left here. And as you then mix these to create actual wines in your cellar at the bottom right, if you've got the capacity, because you have to develop your infrastructure of the small cellar, the medium and the large, to be able to allow you the storage, you can turn them into what we got, blush and sparkling wines, as well as wine, red and white. And you're trying to meet contracts basically. So if you look at the board here, you're sending your workers out and you really have ownership of your workers. You're going to go and give a tour, or you're going to go and build structures with them. You're going to sell some of your fields. You're going to go and draw cards for harvesting. Are you in the winter phase? You've got 2 phases, the summer and the winter. In the winter, you're going to train up more workers. You're going to complete those contracts. So, and there's loads of variety of these cards at the top in the summer and the winter that come into play as well. So a really fabulous game, this one. in a medium, well, in an easier way, in a smoother way, with very fantastic art. It gives you a great feeling of running a little business, this one. So that is number 9. Number 8, we're stepping it up a notch now. We are going hardcore, heavy gaming now. And number 8 is Arkwright. So this game is you're looking at 3, 4, 5 hours for this one. And it's got a 2 to 4 player range. And here we can see you're going to be developing these industries on your board here, and there's various products you can get involved in. But essentially, you're running these factories in England during the 18th century, and your goal is to have the most valuable block of owned shares at the end. So you must increase your share value and buy shares from the bank as well in others. And to run these factories, you're going to need workers, and you're going to have to hire them. When the demand is there, you're going to have to pay to run them as well. But the most interesting thing about this game here is you're going to be fixing the price to develop your appeal. So you can see this sort of track in the middle here of all the cubes. That's your appeal, and dependent on how appealing your product is the amount of product you'll be able to sell, which is thematically amazing. And then as you fluctuate your price, dependent on that, will determine the income you're getting. Now you can see at the sort of the middle right there, all those colours, yellow, red, blue, and green columns. Very interesting aspect in terms of your actions, of how much of an action you can do at how much cost. So I love that aspect of the game. But heading back to the previous slide, you're taking ownership of these industries. You're trying to develop the quality of the thumbs up symbols, maybe, work on the, well, I call it marketing, but I think they call it, I can't remember what they call it now, but development, is it? These sort of little, to the right of them, the slightly beiger ones, but basically your development. And those increase your appeal, which then you can either increase the price and keep the appeal the same, the how appealing your products are, or increase the appeal to be more competitive when it comes around to that sort of attaining the goods and selling them in the market. So a lot of stuff going on here. You've got kind of a bird's eye view on the outside. You can see the value of the shares, and interestingly, you can see without the tiles on the different rounds where you can, various foreign markets move up and a host of goodies. But this is a heavier complexity game, folks, but really gives you a good vibe of ownership for those industries and how you're going to develop them in a slower manner in this game compared to some of the other ones that featured Panamax and Viticulture. Okay, I'm out of breath already. Number 7 then. This game, a very interesting theme, not one that really caught my attention at first, but once I played it, boy, what a game. Pret-a-Porter. This one, it's all set in the world of fashion. Again, it's a heavy game, this one. Takes anywhere in the region of sort of 2 hours to 3 hours, 2 to 4 player game. And you are running clothing companies and you're fighting for dominance during fashion shows. And it's kind of cruel and ruthless in some parts, and money can be a dangerous weapon, it says here. And during this game, you're opening new branches, outlets, you're getting new workers, you're trying to gain new capabilities, design things, you're trying to get those, out to the branded stores and prep them. And you can see here, this is kind of your little business here, and you can see you've hired people at the bottom, your marketing agent, your experienced accountant. They're going to give you little perks as you go throughout the game. At the top, you've got the designs and the collections you're working on, and you're trying to sort of collect the correct materials. So you see the top left, the sort of a coat garment is the yellow and green, and as you acquire those, you can then take them to these fashion shows to get a host of victory points and some income. And on the right there, we've got design agencies. You can kind of bolt on things, which is really nice. Here's the board. Looks busy, but you're basically working yourself from top to bottom. It's like numbered sections where you can go and get loans, and you can get, various contracts and buildings and workers. And then at the bottom, you can attain resources, which is a must. And you need these textiles and certain formations to be able to complete those collections. And you can see a few of the collections close up here. This game, you really feel like you're running this business, folks. You're trying to get the right workers, trying to get the right extra bolt-ons, managing that money during that cleanup phase. You want to go to the fashion show. I've never wanted to go to a fashion show more in my life in this game, to eke out and compete against your other opponents, to have the most trend and the most quality. So, this game is one of the only games really that gets me standing up in awe as I try and figure out my next move and the importance of that sort of worker placement during that one of those rounds there. So Pret-a-Porter, a fantastic game there. Number 6 then. Not many people have heard of this one, but for me, it definitely, has its place in this top 10, and it's Global Mogul. It does not get awards for the most prettiest of artwork, but this one, again, is heavier complexity, takes anywhere in the region of 60 minutes to 2 hours, which is really about right in this one, and it's got a solo mode and plays up to 4. And you can see a little bit of what's going on here. You can see what I mean by the artwork as well. It's functional, so we say. But in this one, from sparse beginnings, you're building your empire across the globe, sending agents far and wide as you expand your capital and you gain access to valuable resources needed to fulfill lucrative contracts. And this game is all about contracts and going out into different markets to get those resources needed. You're trying to dominate these world markets and control those resources to get sort of area control and victory points at the end. And as you expand your interests and you acquire companies as well, so you can buy additional companies, they can provide you an edge over your competition. So here you can see where you're going to be getting those actions and storing the quantity of resources, and there's only so many actions you can do on a turn. You could use venture capitalist, and you can see at the bottom gives you a very good description of what you can do here. You can go to emerging markets, you can take private contracts, public contracts, you produce resources, you can sell and buy at the resource market, government grants. So real good feel of what aspects are in a business, and you really have control over these. And you can see at the back here, it kind of gives you a good demonstration of the contracts and what they look like. If I can kind of zoom in a little bit there. So there's some of the contracts. You just set collecting those sort of laptop symbols, gold, oil, certain individuals. Well, on the far left, actually, you can see all the resources, and it's kind of fuzzy, but you can see all the different global markets you're trying to head to and compete to get the right areas for resource and victory points at the end as well. But definitely look at this one, folks. It's probably quite cheap to pick up if you can find a copy, but it really gives you a good feeling of ownership and heading out into those markets and taking control and running a host of business activities. Okay. Number 5 then. This one is pretty unknown as well. This is a lot simpler to play, that sort of lower complexity, and it's Crude, the oil game. Previously known as Multi-McVitie or something like Multi-Vitti. I can't remember what it's called now, but this is the only version I've played. And it's fantastic, folks. It's you can see the miniatures here. It's more physically appealing. It plays 2 to 4 players. Takes about 2 hours, sometimes a tad longer if you haven't those what they call the events sort of not playing in your favor, and your businesses have been affected by oil crashes and all sorts of things. But essentially in this game, you're a CEO taking control of one of these oil companies, and you're trying to expand this company into the multinational energy, building it into a multi mega corporation. And you're doing this by literally building this infrastructure here, and you're trying to make the most oil and gas from these to then turn it into these I can't remember what the red buildings are called now, but you refineries. You're refining that oil and gas so you can then produce, it will sell it into these, what they call the little, the green ones. They're the actual fuel pumps. And you can sell it through the fuel pumps for a nice tidy profit, hopefully. And you can see on this one, you've got the consumer market at the top. So that's the prices you'll be getting through those fuel pumps. Or if you're selling directly to the foreign market on the left, you can see these will normally be filled with those tokens, but you can sell it depending on the prices there. So those fluctuate depending on who's buying what or selling what. And on the far right, you've got the domestic market as well. It gives you another option. As a tad bit of luck in this as to what is actually going to produce, because you roll in various dice. And if we go back here, you can see you sort of got this red column and black row, and depending on what is actually hit will determine what you get produced. So a bit more luck in this one, but I just love it, folks. It really gives you ownership of key decisions of what infrastructure you're going to buy, where you're going to sell this to which market, and you're trying to eke out the most money are you going to reinvest it, or you're going to hope that because there's different levels to the economy. There's the depression and recession and the upturn, and as these different areas play through, different timings in the economy play through, determine the price of all this infrastructure. And you might buy high and then you're like, oh, I could have bought low. So some very interesting decisions to make as CEO of an oil corporation here. Next up at number 4, a game that's just come out recently, one I've played quite a bit online. I've just got the physical copy, and this is Carnegie. Fantastic game, this one. It's a heavier game. There's a theme of heavy games here that really give you the time and intricacies to play that feel of managing a business. And this one, you're looking at 3 hours plus, really, and it plays 1 to 4 players. Now, here's a bit of a closer up of the board. But essentially, Carnegie himself, it's kind of themed off someone who was a real mogul, shall we say, and he built his fame and fortune in the United States in the steel industry and made him one of the richest men at the time. And then he moved on to, giving that money to charities and various things as well. But during this game, you'll be recruiting and managing your employees, expanding your business, investing in real estate, producing, selling goods, transporting things across the United States here. A host of business activity, folks. Now you can see the main board in the middle there, which is where you're placing various business parts of your infrastructure down to try and create chains to get victory points and collect those. But at the bottom, the crux really is this section here, which is where you're building your HR parts, your management areas, what else have we got? Infrastructure, is it? And your research. And as you develop these businesses, and depending where you locate them on here and how your meeples can get to them to use them and how many times and quantities you can use them is massive. This feels like physically you are creating a little mini business here. And it's just so fascinating how this works and how you can eke the most out. And you never so much have I looked at my player board going, I wish I had one more movement just to have that meeple one place to the left and one up. So the actual placement of this is fascinating. And then you've got this actual board here where at the top, are you going to go donating for those sort of VPs at the end of the game? How are you going to make the most of these sort of west, midwest, east and south tracks? Is how you're going to get these extra bonuses? Really good fun, this one, folks. So that was Carnegie. Number 3 then. How can we beat Carnegie? We can. It is Smartphone Inc., folks. Another fantastic game. This is a medium complexity one. Plays in about 60 to 90 minutes, which I think is about right for this one. And it's got a player range of 1 to 5. Now, in this one, you are running smartphone companies. And this is during the time when they were just sort of setting out into the world. You can see, I'll come back to that one. But in here, you've got this great artwork actually on the front cover. But you're building your office network and you're trying to outprice your competitors to become the most profitable and successful smart company. So coming back to this one here, this is your executive decision. So you got this interesting play of choosing what actions you're able to see and how many you can see and what you're going to cover up. So depending on what's visible once you've played these tiles down, they're the actions you can do as you play out the round. And you can see here the markets you're trying to get to. So as you develop your technologies, you'll have access to maybe, consumers that want better battery life, or maybe they want more they want Wi-Fi, they want gaming capabilities. And depending on what your price is, you can see, say, what have we got? West Canada at the top there. If your phone is priced at 6, well, those guys with the red 5, you've outpriced them because they want a phone that goes up to 5. Whereas, you can see at the bottom of 3, they want a phone that's priced, 3 or less, basically, if I've said that in the right order. But you can see these guys, you're playing for area control as well, central states. The yellow players managed to sell 4 phones there, or 4 million phones, whatever you want to call it. So they're going to take potentially extra bonus points for having dominated that market. So it's an interesting power play across the board for selling your phones at the right price to the right consumers and making the most profit. An absolutely fascinating game. And going back a slide, this gives you a real good feeling of ownership as a CEO as to what decisions you're going to make. Is just an interesting mechanic, this one, and how you're going to go. And you can see the back of the board, you can see you've got this sort of little tray where you're keeping your production and how you're going to get these offices out and develop certain technology as well. So yeah, fascinating game, fantastic. Give it a go if you get a chance. Number 2, we're on to the big boys now, folks. We have got City of the Big Shoulders. If you want to run a business, folks, come and check out this game. This one is, again, on the heavier complexity, very heavy game. Takes sort of, 3-4 hours plus, I'd say. If you're really good, maybe squeak that under 3 hours. 2 to 4 players. And in this one, you're taking on the role of entrepreneurs, and you really are. And your investors seeking to rebuild Chicago during a time where it'd gone through a load of troubles. And basically, you're trading in shares, you're hiring employees, you're trying to equip these factories to produce goods, and then you're having them delivered to get the most money. And here's the board. This is one of the online ones, but you can see sort of in the center, that's where you're going to be placing these building tiles, and you're placing your workers out. You're going to go and invest in capital to give your factories and in front of you. So if I zoom in, this is one of the ones at the bottom in black. So you're trying to get more sales managers to get sell your products for more money, or you're going to go and just get managers that give you the capability to get extra little perks like more appeal. I could talk all day about this one, but basically it covers a lot of intricate areas that a business would require, and you are taking full ownership of these. But you've got this interesting power play of buying shares in other companies to gain money for your own funds, because you are an entrepreneur and you're only setting up this business. You might not have, your full attention in that business forever, because you might decide to invest in another business as you try and hit the niche of another market and sell leather shoes or something. And as you do so, you'll let your other business maybe diminish, and your other shareholders thinking, wait a minute, what is going on here? He's not focusing his attention on selling those goods or even trying to produce goods in that other business. So you are fluctuating potentially from business to business, managing your investment and your shareholding in those businesses. Absolutely fantastic game, this one. Heavier, as I say, but check it out. Really, really good one. And here's another image here, a close-up. You can see you got your shares on the right there, and a bit of a close-up on the businesses there. And this is sort of a bird's eye view of the other image we had. Over to number one. So what is my number one favourite business game then? Can you guess? It's Food Chain Magnate. There's not a game quite like this, folks, and I'll explain why in a minute. But basically, another heavy game, 120, well, basically 2 hours plus, 3 hours, 4 hours sometimes, depending on which type of level you choose, whether you're going for that long game, depending on how much money each player decided to put in the bank. 2 to 5 players, this one. And you are basically running a fast food chain, and your focus is to build your company using this card-driven resource management system, which is really quite unique, and it does it really well in this game. And as you compete on this sort of variable city map, which I'll show you here, you're trying to sell and your products at the right time and use your staffing capabilities to do that and develop your infrastructure. So you've got this variable board here, you've got these various pardon me, these properties you're trying to sell things to, but you can only sell to them if you market to them. And you've got this sort of structure here of how you're going to be hiring people and how you're going to train them up. So at the top, you've got this waitress, below management trainee, or you're going to train them up into a junior vice president and then into a vice president, which gives you more options to have more staff. Right at the bottom, you're going to go kitchen trainee to then turn them into a burger cook, and then a burger chef to get more burgers. Wow, folks, this game, you are complete ownership of your hierarchy structure of CEO, working all the way down to burger chefs and trainees and HR staff and business development teams. I'm out of breath here. Who can then bring more businesses onto the board. What sort of prices you're going to be trying to work your way to with discount managers, and really try and meet the needs for your marketing team to offer those products to those businesses to get the cash, because you want to get that money as quick as you can from the bank, because once it's exhausted, it's kind of it. Whoever has the most money is the winner. So yeah, absolutely love this one. Some fascinating aspects, and that, folks, or slightly sneaked onto the last one there, but that's the top 10. So hopefully something there caught your attention. Absolutely, those for me are the 10 best games that give you a real insight into, well, not an insight, but a feel as to managing and running a business. So I did promise you some games that didn't quite make it into the list, and games that maybe just weren't considered because there's a host of them. For example, the 18XX series, I could go on all day about those when I've played more of them, but I've kind of ignored them for this video. There's a few games on here that I've not particularly played, but I think would make it into the top 10 if I'd have played them. For example, Brick and Mortar at the bottom is all about running businesses, and I can't wait to play that one. That one will probably definitely hit the top 10. 1923 Cotton Club is one I'm very interested in, running a club and managing it, a bit lighter complexity though. Happy Pigs, just could have squeaked in, very low complexity, but surprisingly a lot of fun, folks. You're running this sort of pig farm when you're going to sort of feed them up and sell them and make them the most of the events and the power play of whatever players are doing and how you get the most quantities. Or Automania, a great game about running a car company. Pan Am, you're running a company about, during the age of Pan Am and how you're going to invest in sending those flights out and making the most of them. Crisis, another good game there, in a weird sort of setting and a theme based on, I think it was the Euro crisis of Greece, that one. Vinos, yet to play that one, but that's sort of that similar thing to Viticulture, but heavier. You got the Power Grid range. Factory Manager is my preferred one over Power Grid, but check them out. Not played the Gallerist, but heard good things about that one. Grand Austria, I think if you like Panamax, check this one out. It's got that same mechanic with the dice. So yeah, a host of other games, didn't quite make it, but just gives you something to a food for thought there one. And that is it, folks. That is my top 10. Hopefully some of it is been of interest to you there. And thanks for watching, and see you soon.